opportunity to spend a couple minutes getting to know Sadhguru a little better. And then at some point, I'm going to ask my sister to share a little bit more about Share Our Strength's evolution into this work, and we'll talk to you about where we're headed next. But Sadhguru, one of the things they said during the video was that no one person is responsible for this, that it took many. And that's true, but there also is one who I'm looking at who made a big difference here. And my sister told me that when you all had this conversation a little while ago in Palo Alto, she asked you what you were doing before, and you said it wasn't very interesting, which I don't believe. But tell us a little bit about your path and what led you to doing this.
Thank you. I think before going there, let me confess that we have bribed the immigration officials in India to make sure that Delhi and we always have the port of entry as Bengaluru. Don't be surprised next time. Every director from Delhi or Mumbai to Bengaluru. Yeah. I can do that for every one of you in the room. I will wield such influence. But yes, thank you for visiting us. Both of you, Jitu, Malvi, thank you for doing it. Thank you for bringing us all over here. So, yes, before starting in 2012 on this mission, One World One Family, I was doing a very, very boring job of being a banker. Yeah, and those who are bankers, they would know what I mean. It's not at all a happy thing to make rich richer. And that's what was bothering me, that rich were getting richer and poor were getting poorer. And thanks to the bankers like me who were doing this. So I thought it was a total disservice to the people. And I did not find that very happy. And I was always looking for a cause, a reason for me to spend my time and energy and my skills. That's when we began this mission, and it was purely guided by my gurus. In India, those who are from India, they will know there is this Guru Shishya or the Guru disciple traditions. So I follow Sai Baba, and because of his humanitarian work, I was inspired. I studied there for 7 years with these institutions, and he did the world's largest water project for millions of people who did not have safe, potable drinking water. He built hospitals and schools and universities, and I thought I should do the same thing. But then I landed in a bank and started, as I said, making the rich richer. Thanks to America, there was a subprime crisis in 2008, and then I decided enough is enough. And I said, no, there's more to be done. Now, America is a disruptive economy, where it changes things. And today I'm meeting another disruptor, Billy and Delhi. And I don't know who's the smarter between the two. But Delhi says it's Billy and Billy says it's Delhi all the time. But then both of them started disrupted this idea of hunger across the world. They started small, but look at 40 years of work, and today where they are. They influence policymakers, they have brought food to the kids, and this summer program that Chuck was talking about is so interesting. You're making the government work, and that's an important thing to do, because they have policies, they have resources, but they need right people to make that happen. So we've learned a lot from them. So that's about me in 12 years. We've been working on this nutrition program. I have wonderful people like Anand, Sai Prasad, and a whole lot of people who are so dedicated. So I'm sitting here, they are here where the work goes on. The child is still getting his morning nutrition every single day. So that is the duty, and now we've spread to several countries. And one country that I want to share about is Malawi, which added to our list recently. And there the child in Malawi is so hungry that the only meal that the child gets is the meal that we serve. And the parents tell us that please keep the school open even on the weekends, like you have summer hunger, and weekend hunger. When the school is not working on the weekend, parents have nothing to feed the children. And that's how bad it is with wars going on and all the supply chain of food, here in Africa especially, and the cutting down of USAID and many other such help and support mechanisms has been getting worse. So I think this is the time when we must rise to the occasion, join hands, and share our strength with a great partner, because the very name says share our strength. We all have our strengths, but none of us is individually capable of making that change happen. Together we can. It's a solvable problem. Chuck, I always carry that thought with me. It's a solvable problem, but let's solve it together. So that's why I'm here.
Well, thank you for that. Annapurna is a very important part of One World, One Family, and it's a part that obviously shares values with Share Our Strength very strongly. But when I was there, I also got to visit the hospital, I got to visit other facilities. The hospital was the most state-of-the-art hospital I've seen, everything, neonatal, NICU, orthopedics, cardiac, and like everything else at One World, One Family, it is 100% free of charge. It's amazing, it's astonishing really. You just come out of there thinking, how can this possibly be the case? And what I wanted to ask you, related to my first question and your kind of transition to doing what you're doing now, when you took on something as ambitious as that, did you have moments of doubt? Did you have moments where people were saying to you, what are you doing?
Oh, plenty. I'm no God, so I'm a human. I've gone through my own ups and downs. And there were people questioning our both intentions as well as our abilities. Because people give us advice, charge a few, subsidize the others, and things like that, which are the models that are usually followed around the world. But for us, it was all about being a family. And there are richer people in the family that are not so rich, but we look after each other. And that was the core philosophy. So we could not have charged anybody. So we went through a lot of difficulties. I think the worst was COVID, because it was as such, it's a free of charge hospital, and then comes COVID where everybody needs a hospital, but nobody is willing to donate because people were scared about their future. They didn't know whether they will have their jobs and what happens afterwards. So they were very, very shy. And that is the first time we went to borrow from the bank. Being a banker, I knew banks won't lend us money because that was a very bad idea. They're giving to a charity that earns nothing other than the donations. You never know. But since I was a banker, I knew how to talk. And we convinced them, and that was the first time we borrowed some money just to keep the things going. It was questioned heavily by everybody. They said, what are you doing? This is suicidal. A charity going and borrowing money to spend on people, and nothing is going to come out of it. You're just going to throw it into a sinkhole. I said, whatever it is, you cannot stop the services when people need it the most. So what if there are no donors? So we never removed anybody from our organization. We kept everyone on the roads, paid their salaries, we borrowed some money, and continued the mission. I think that was one of the lowest point in the mission in 2020, but we got over that, and that has given tremendous strength and huge goodwill in the society, because they looked at us and said, this is an organization which is really, really working for the people, taking such risks, especially during COVID times. So I think that was one time when I got questioned, a lot of people doubted us, but we came out of it and we are growing strong since then. Every organization goes through that phase, when you have to rediscover yourself or reinvent yourself. That low point is the moment of truth, which everyone must go through. I'm sure you also would have had.
Absolutely. That's just another example of how much we continue to learn from you. Very important. One of the questions I have for you, and this might be a hard question, is that share strength in our earliest days, we used to say that it takes more than food to fight hunger, that hunger is a symptom of other issues. And only recently, we started to think about how we address some of the root causes of why families and children experience hunger in the first place. I'm wondering at One World, One Family, I know you're as involved with education as you are with morning nutrition, as you are with healthcare, but how does that factor into your thinking, the imperative of at some point addressing the root causes of why these conditions exist?
I see, I'm also a philosopher and teacher, so if I have to really drill down, the root cause is human selfishness. Let's be upfront about it. If we all were a little more selfless than what we are, world would have been a better place. But so I go down that far. Of course, there are systemic challenges. There's governments, the political will is missing. Sometimes there are agendas running. There is division based on caste and color and religion and name it. So there are plenty of reasons. The whole social structure is faulty. But deep under, I feel that I cannot change the governments. I cannot, sort of wish that everybody starts working the way they should work. But I feel that deep inside, as humans, we are born to do good. Goodness is in our DNA. It's just that it needs to express itself. It needs the right platform, right opportunity, right people, right company to make that goodness happen. So I feel that though most of the people would go by survival instincts, because we born animals at some point in time, survival instincts were inherent to us. But we have gone beyond that. We don't live like animals anymore. We wear clothes, talk languages, we live in homes, drive cars, and we don't have to fight and kill anyone for our own survival. That's no more necessary. So keeping that in the mind, I always keep telling people that let's try to be a little more selfless than what we were yesterday. And if you can go there, I truly believe it's not the governments who should make this happen. It is not a huge organization that can make it happen. It is the people who can make this happen. So I call Annapurna not as an organization, but I call it as a people's movement. Where people come together for people. And let's share our strengths too, where people come together for people, they support each other. And that's what human societies is all about. That's when we evolve together. Every time we do a little act of selflessness, a little act of goodness, a little sacrifice that we make for somebody else who is more needy than us, we evolve, we grow. And that's the idea that I think is fundamental to our evolution, not merely existence.
Well, just like it didn't take long to get through the slides, it doesn't take long to see what's so special about Sadhguru and Anand and Sai and his whole team. And one of the things I'm going to ask you in a moment, Sadhguru, I'm going to pause to bring my sister to this conversation, but one of the things that we're trying to understand at Share Strength is how we can be a better partner to you and to other organizations working in India and around the world. But this is, in our case, part of an evolution. You know, our earliest days at Share Strength were sparked by the Ethiopian famine back in 1984. But really since then, all of our work, except for the work we're doing in India, has been in the United States. But Debbie and Chuck and G2 have been pioneering this effort to get us to become a more valuable partner to your work. And Debbie, just come on up and let me give you the microphone and describe a little bit about what you've been doing.
Sure. I wonder what it would take to get me into one of those videos, because I've only been here for 41 years. But maybe next meeting. That'd be nice.
You were the smarter one.
Yeah, exactly. So let me add my thanks to everybody for being here. A lot of our old friends are here, some original Share Strength staffers are here, which means so much, and then just a lot of new supporters and people that are just here to learn. So thank you for taking the time to be here with us tonight. It really means a lot. I'm so inspired, every time I meet with the team from Annapurna. Every time I read an annual report or talk to Anand or talk to Sai, I learn a little bit more about their ambition, and it is ambitious, and I love that. They want to go from 10 to 20 million by the end of next year, or in the next 2 years, which is incredible. They're doing comprehensive services at no cost, incredible. These are things that inspire us and inspire me so much to do more in India. So thank you for all the work and the inspiration. All of you, thank you. As Billy said, just a little context setting about our international work I thought would be helpful. As Billy said, we started Share Strength in response to the Ethiopian famine. And it was really just like a pretty quick physical response we had to start the organization. We didn't talk to consultants or do any surveys or market research. We just pretty much opened our doors within 3 weeks to a month. And we believed strongly at the time that everybody has the strength to share. That was at the center, that was at the core of our belief. And we also believed that hunger is solvable, and we believed that restaurants and chefs would be our first line of defense because they feed people for a living, and they would respond to this issue. And it was just an instinct, the most important instinct I think we've ever had, because that community, as we have Raul and Eric Brunner here today, feeding all of us, that instinct is as strong today as it was 41 years ago. We work with probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 45,000 restaurants and chefs at every level, fine dining, quick service, casual dining, and they have found a way to come together and share their strength and raise a lot of funding and awareness. So we started in response to Ethiopia, but we very quickly turned our attention to an issue that we know is also a problem here in the United States. It looks different than what was happening in India, but still it is an issue in the US. We continue to do grant making in very small ways to nonprofits around the world, like Save the Children, Oxfam, and so on. Unrestricted dollars to organizations that were fighting hunger and poverty, but no engagement, no involvement in strategy, just a small grant over the years. And then when we decided to launch No Kid Hungry, which was 2010, Chuck? 2011? 2010. We started to look at schools. We centered schools as our strategy to reach kids in school. And when we did that, as it was, we wanted to align it. So we started to look at organizations like Annapurna and Akshaya Patra and others, and Amrita in India that were doing school meals. And we started to meet their teams and their leadership and their staff and do some traveling. And I started to think like, instead of these small grants we're making, what if we started to transition some of what we do here in our fundraising into India and to see if we can make $25,000, $200,000. And so we looked at some of the things that worked for us here. The biggest thing that we had for many years, as many of you have attended, were our culinary events. Tasting events with chefs and private dinners and so on. So we started to do that in India. Our first one was in Nagpur, thanks to G2, where he's from. And we did a tasting event, 1,000 people came to this event. They had never seen one before. And boy, that told us like, this is a product that we can get across India. So we started to build in Delhi and Mumbai and Nagpur. We've done events there. We're doing events coming up in Goa, in Hyderabad, and in Bangalore. So these events don't just raise money for the cause. They do a lot more than that. They are a multi-pronged, they're like these events to me are like a magnet for building your network. Because people come in, because there's gonna be a great meal and great chefs, and they bring their friends, it's a night of being social, but then they learn, like we just learned today, they learn about the work that our partners are doing in India, and they want to get involved. And it's everything from architects to artists to lawyers to doctors to tech leaders to CEOs. And then you start to have a network. So we use those dinners and taste events the same way we did them here to bring in new people and to build that network. So to date, we have reached about 600,000 kids in India with 30 million meals, I believe, in just in the last 2.5, 3 years. By doing this work. So our contribution is much greater than it was when we were just doing a grant. And so that's the beginning of this idea of how, and there are many other ways that we can start to be creative and innovative with other industries in India too. But the idea is to find ways to support our partners in a way that builds a movement in India. And there's just, there's so much opportunity. One of the reasons why we chose India to work in primarily is because government supports school meals. There's a growing, strong culinary industry. It's a strong economy. There are partners like Annapurna. They're doing incredible work that we can support. And there's a delivery system. And it's an entrepreneurial country with innovation. And it's just, it has taken off so well there. But we have so much more to do. So that's a little bit of the history and why we chose India. We really want to support our partners there and reach these ambitious goals that we've laid out. That's a big challenge to us. But I think we can do it together. So thank you.
Debbie has really been the energy force behind this effort, almost from the very beginning, starting 42 years ago with Share Our Strength, but certainly in the last 3 or 4 years, and her energy and excitement and enthusiasm for this has been just contagious to all of us. The other reason I would say that we're in India, I think Debbie and I agree on this, is we do so many things. It's just absolutely the nicest people that we've ever worked with anywhere. Just absolutely incredible. So where this is leading for Share Our Strength, and we won't dwell on this tonight, but the work has been growing so fast that we've decided that it needs to be liberated from the constraints of our larger organization. So Share Our Strength is going to incubate over the next 18 months a sister organization, we're going to call it Strength Global, that is going to work alongside Share Our Strength, but focus on India. And so Chuck is going to be the CEO of it. G2 is going to be one of our directors. Debbie is going to be involved. I'm going to be involved. We have staff on the ground in India already. So we're really excited about letting this organization really take off. And so we have a group of people whose attentions are not divided between our domestic work and the work of Indian International, but really solely focused on it. I think it's going to lead to great things, and it's why Sadhguru, I was asking about, as we start to think about having more resources to be a better partner, what you think of in terms of what you're looking for in partnership.
I think we learned a lot from you through these conversations that we have been having for the last couple of weeks. And one thing that I really learned with you that you've been able to influence the governments, especially with the policy that Chuck was talking about for the summer hunger and trying to save the SNAP program and other things. I think that is the force multiplier. we all can't do it. Government has the resources, but sometimes they lack the will or the implementation mechanisms. Something is lacking somewhere. I think influencing them is something that we learn from you. We're trying a lot, but Indian government is even harder to influence, by the way. So I think if you join us, that will go a long way in explaining that how this has happened in the US, and it can happen in India too, where millions of children can use the government's resources. And like here, federal programs are there, even India has the central government programs. But the state governments do not participate because either they lack resources or they just don't buy this idea. I think if we all go together, like Debbie told me last time, I did not go to tell the government what to do. I took the people from the society, the corporate honchos, I took the big businessmen, I took the local people, I sent them all to the government to talk to them. And that kind of put not just a social pressure, but I think it also drove some sense into the heads of the people who were in head of affairs, and they thought it was important. If it was only Delhi going and knocking on their doors, probably they thought this is another NGO, back again knocking and even sort of begging for funds. But that wasn't the case, and I think I learned that from you. So I would want you to join us in talking to the state governments in India, and I'm sure your presence and your global, 40 years of global work, all that will go a long way. So that's the first thing I'm looking at. Let's advocate for it together. Let's go to these offices together and talk about it. The second thing I'm looking for is that we are looking at global, as you said, share global, or strength global, right? That's a beautiful idea. And I think we have spread all of a sudden, we exploded to 100 countries. And I get calls from everywhere, through Bhuvana and through everybody, please help us. And we are still figuring it out how to help, because every country eats differently. Their children have different cultural and social behavior. And it doesn't work the same way everywhere. So we are trying to further get into micronutrition, like smaller sachets or packets which are having micronutrients. You just mix it into any food that you're eating, and it enhances the overall nutritional value, especially for the kids who are growing. They need all that micronutrition. So that's the program we want to take it up. It is if a dollar can feed 30 odd kids for a day, I think that would feed probably 60 odd kids for a day. So that cost leverage that comes to us. And if we do it for more and more number of people, it means the costs will further come down. So I think that is the other partnership I'm looking at beyond India. In countries where we really can't go and serve them full meals, it's not possible, the logistics and all don't work out. But still we can ensure that children grow with all the micronutrition that they require. Doctors will have weak. Otherwise they will have poor eyesight, they'll have weaker bones and bad skin and so many other developmental delays, which is going to cause a lot of productivity losses in the future, because they're not healthy kids. So they go to hospitals, there is a healthcare burden that increases, they won't go to schools, school budgets would fail, and finally there will be grown-ups who have no capacity to work, because they have no intelligence, no strength. So that is the program I want to really make it global, and we want you to come with us. We want you to walk into all those offices or bring your people, and the more the merrier. And if we are loud enough a voice, I think people would listen. And using the government machinery, their resources, and putting them to good use for the society, I think that's something that I would really want you to help us with. We work together. When Debbie speaks, everybody listens. Something like that.
We would love to do that. We've learned a lot. We actually came to the advocacy and the government and the policy work later than we probably should have, but since then we've been learning a lot, and of course we want to share. I was going to ask you one last question and then see if any of our friends in the audience have questions. Is that okay with you to take a few of those? And so I guess the last question I would ask, and we're kind of going to school on you because these are questions that we wrestle with, so we're hoping to learn from you. But one of the questions we struggle with all the time is, how do you measure success, and what does success look like? Because almost everything flows backward from that. Everything is derivative of that. But for One World, One Family, how do you think about where you want it to be in 10 years and 20 years? I understand the numbers that you're aiming for, but what will the overall picture of success look like for you?
I think our success is like multi-layered. At a very social level, I want everybody to have these basic needs met. They should have food, they should have a shelter, They should have clothes, they should have an education, they should have a job, an opportunity to earn their own living. And that's for the whole world. So that's a very, very big vision. And if you ask me, that's for 8 billion plus people. So can I do it alone? No, I can't. Can I do it over the next 10 years? No, I can't. Maybe over hundreds of years, so many of us coming together. So that's the biggest vision, that every single human being on this planet should have basic needs met. It's a tragedy that we have $100 trillion global GDP. The world has never been richer than what it is today, but never been poorer at the same time. That's something that bothers me, because that's when I said, if everybody does a little more than what they do, I'm sure 4 billion can take care of the other 4 billion. So our idea is to go around talking about this, inspire people. That is my bigger vision for the world. On a very, very basic, in fact, individual side, success would be when every individual is starting to do a little more good than what he did yesterday. At a very individual level, I would say. Every organization that is into doing social good is able to do a little more than what they did yesterday. That incremental success is what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at one big success on one fine day. I'm looking at these small incremental successes that everybody takes a step more, goes a little more than what they did yesterday. And that's what I love about us, because we are looking at that. We are looking at one big, beautiful success at some point in time. We are looking at those incremental small successes every day. And this is success to me whenever we have grown from 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 million. These are small successes, they happen. So the idea that the whole world is a family should sink into every single human being, irrespective of their caste, creed, color, race, whatever it is. And to be able to be sensitive to somebody else's needs and to prioritize them before ourselves, I think that is true society, that is true humanity. So for me, true success comes when every one of us start thinking like that. And I'm not saying everybody can do the same thing for the same amount of time, but every day a little more good than the previous day. The incremental good is my measure of success. Numbers aside, numbers will happen, may not happen. We don't know what's in store tomorrow, what's going to happen. But yes, human goodness will last. And if I can influence people to be a little more good than what they were yesterday, I think I would measure that as the success of our organization. I decided I started alone. I was very, 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 very convinced about what I was doing, despite whatever happened in between. But today you see thousands. I don't even have a count of how many volunteers work in so many countries. I don't have a measure of that success at all. It's so intangible. The human transformation that is happening, that is the real core. And what you see on the outside is simply the after effects of that change which is happening within that human being. So this is the success tool, that I change the humans from inside. It's an irreversible change. It stays. It doesn't go back to the old ways. People change for good. And that keeps happening. Imagine a few people, maybe 1 million or 2, get influenced by this. The whole world will be looked after, irrespective of who rules the country, who governs the policies, who is doing what. People would change the world. And that is why I call it, it's about people, it's about people. So it's a movement. To me, success is if you change people for good. So I know that's a bad answer. I don't know whether you can explain this to others the same way, but that's what I feel.
I don't think I can improve on that. Let's take advantage of this opportunity for a couple of questions or comments. We've got a few minutes. Anybody has a question for Sadhguru, or a comment or a suggestion or advice for any of us? Please.
For some of us who have known Sadhguru's work, is amazing, and how it's growing in so many countries. Every year I hear bigger things. But the question, a couple questions, and I'm sure you have other experience, but more implementation. Are the governments in every country, as they have the laws the same way of setting aside money like India has for midday meals or whatever? Do they have that? And is that what we're trying to leverage? Because you're correct about saying, without the government's resources, we can't.
Not every government has a program, though they wish to have one. But the first priorities go for other things. Children still remain hungry. So, but they have, a lot of governments have, like for example, smaller nations have some kind of an AID programs from other countries. But I saw those money just lying, not being used, because there's nobody to implement those programs. So I'm sure that is where I'm saying, wherever you have that money lying, you'll identify them first Say that you have the money but you're not doing anything with it. So let's go there first and influence them. But there are countries who really do not have that money. And they just wait for somebody else to kind of do it for them. So in those places we'll have to have another strategy. Probably we'll have to go out to global corporations who are present in those countries and would like to make some kind of a social impact over there. So we find that those resources elsewhere. So, but yes, not many governments have this program. But again, as I say, it's not so easy because there are vested interests, and that's the reason why not many people like us, because we don't want to give money in their hands. Most of the governments say, oh, you want us, we will implement it, you just give us the check. And I know the check is not going to go to the kids anymore. I know that, so we don't agree to that. And that is why we find a little bit of difficulty in convincing governments. But as I said, if a lot of people go together, probably the governments will say, oh, there are too many people and they can't have their way. And that's where I'm looking at, and I mean, no offense, but little white skin goes a long way, by the way. It's kind of and I know it's true.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
The follow-up for this question, where the US government stands, they can be a big donor for our mission. Are we enticing them to go in that direction?
Right now, we've never approached the US government for any of the projects, except for a small hospital that we're supporting in Clarksdale, where we're working with the Economic Development Council of the county. And it was unfortunate that they themselves need help, that's what they said, because they hardly had any budgets. And a lot of money the government does not flow south. So that's the other issue that they keep facing, they're shutting down hospitals. So that is why we are saying that with the share our strength, who at least know whom to go and talk to. Eventually, probably it will lead to something greater globally. But right now, I don't have, we haven't approached anybody, we haven't talked to anybody. But slowly, I think we'll get there, step by step. Yeah, right now, US government is also, as I said, I don't think much is being given right now because they are also looking at so many other issues that are going on right now. I don't know if this is the best time to approach them. But maybe I'll wait for 2 years.
Yes. That's where the money and the heart.
Yeah, they have. America is the most generous country on the planet. But if she says Indians are the best, easiest, or the happiest people to work with, I must also tell that Americans are the most generous breed of people on this planet. And that's something that we must encourage and leverage for the greater good of the world. That's why I'm here.
We have time, I think, for one more question, sir.
Hi there. I work with hunger relief organisations. I'm a social impact consultant. You have a great room of people here. My question is, what do you want people in this room to do to help?
Me?
Yeah, then I'll go.
I think, as I said, while it's nice to have incremental successes, incremental changes, but there are a lot of kids who will be left out. So we have to make some of those big moves. If we can get more organizations on this platform, like you are a consultant, I'm sure you must be knowing so many organizations who are trying to solve the same problem. And if you can get them all inside the room and then get them all to walk and talk together, so much can happen. I'm sure somebody looking at India, but they just don't know how to enter. Somebody looking at Africa, they don't know how to do that. But if as a consultant you can connect all of them, I think that's what I expect from you in person. And the rest of the people in the room, they can figure out where do they fit into this whole puzzle, You can share your time, your testimonies, your ties, your talents, your pleasure. If you have that extra penny to spare, not cent I think here, extra cent to spare. So whatever it takes, whatever it takes. And please tell about it to more people. I'm sure there's so many good people out there who don't know us and we don't know them. You can be the bridge. And you can make that change happen. So please go and talk about it. That's one thing I learned from America. They talk and talk and talk. But that helps. I mean, as in India, I think I actually grew them all wrong. I told them, look, our policy is work more, talk less. So nobody talks, It's so it's difficult for us to talk. I used to talk, and I used to go into this kind of public meetings. I was very shy, so I had to really break that and come out of it. And I realized unless you speak, people won't know you. They won't it doesn't occur to them. So now we are talking and learning. Please talk about it. Go and tell more people about it. And you, the consultant, please get the people who would like to work together. You see, we can all share that responsibility, share the strength, share the burden, and share the vision. It's possible if people like you get involved in it.
And I'm so glad to hear you say that about talking, because I would say, and I think it aligns with what you're talking about, in our world where everybody has the strength to share, there are many, as you mentioned, people can donate, they can volunteer, but it's the voice, to me, that is the most important thing, because we have voices in this room that fairly or unfairly get heard disproportionately relative to a lot of other voices in the world. And when we can use our voice, when we can share our voice, when we can lend our voice to others whose voices may not be heard, that's when we can start to change things. I also just want to point out, we have one more question? Is there one more?
Yeah. Probably that will be the last one then.
Oh, last one.
It's so wonderful to hear you speak, and I'm curious if you can share a little bit more about the work you do in the field of education beyond the food side of it, but are there investments in education and the growth of young people in other ways as well?
Sure, I'm sure our team will give you more details, but in brief, we run schools from primary all the way to the university, and all the education is residential and completely free. Most of them is in India, close to 3,500 students study. But we also have a medical school which is free. That was the first medical school in the world that was built, which is totally free. Nursing, paramedical service, everything is free. Other than that, we run schools in Nigeria. There are about 1,000 students study over there. We also have a small orphanage where the people stay and also study. We also have schools in Sri Lanka. We support schools in Australia, which are looking for the aborigines and the people who have fallen through the cracks. We support scholarship programs for those kids who don't study in our schools. We give over 8,000 scholarships for kids to just stay in the school because they can't buy books and pencils and things like that. So we support them all the way. The good part of the education is that we also ensure that all these kids come back to a system like this and they start contributing once they're graduated. So it's not that you get and you walk away. You must contribute back through various direct and indirect means. Directly, you can be a part of this organization that we run. Indirectly, you can contribute to any other organization that you can become a part of. So we insist that our students become a part of an organization, a social organization. We track that our alumni are associated with some good after they have graduated from our institutions. So that's a must. So that's how we are trying to work on the education part.
Thank you. Before we close, I want to ask Jitu Jodhpur in the back of the room just to raise your hand so everybody knows you're here. It's typical of your humility that you're in the back, not up here where you belong. But Jitu has been seriously devoted to advancing our work, and along with my sister Debbie and Chuck, has just made great strides. We're so grateful to have this time with you.
Thank you.
And with your whole team, and I guess will you be able to stick around for a few minutes and on inside and talk to some folks if they have other questions. So we look forward to growing this partnership and are indebted to you for what we're learning.
I really look forward to it, and I love the energy that you and Debbie carry wherever you go. And you're not getting older at all, that's what I concluded after seeing the second time. Keep going, that's all I can say.
Very well, thank you.